All right, next question. We're going to start with Benjamin Stanley on this one. We had a couple questions regarding transportation, including one about Kalamazoo being named a place where the state police decided to up enforcement regarding pedestrian accidents. We've had lots of rhetoric about this topic from city leaders, but the problem is getting worse, not better. How will you address this issue in your role on the city commission, the issue of pedestrian safety in Kalamazoo?
I think communication about how we travel is important. The city just took ownership of a lot of streets from the state recently, and they've also adopted some new ordinances that give people that are crossing the crosswalk right-of-ways over people that are driving. I'm sure you've all seen the signs. And kind of helping people get used to, I live on North Street, which is a somewhat busy street. And people normally will stand on the side of the road and wait for traffic to go. And since the signs have come up, a lot of them will just kind of like meander onto the road sometimes and just kind of go like, hey, I have the right now. So working out some of those kinks, helping people understand like what's appropriate and how we can all live together. Thanks.
Gene Hess, how would you address the issue of pedestrian safety in the city of Kalamazoo?
Safety is tantamount to a healthy city. I believe that the strategic plan, Imagine Kalamazoo 2025, addresses safe cities, and actually we need to create the infrastructure and the safe walkable roads and sidewalks that are in the plan. As a commissioner, I would make sure that we are following the plans that have been laid out for safe walkable neighborhoods. I agree with the fact that we need to be kinder and gentler in terms of being aware of pedestrians on our roads and on our streets and along our pathway as drivers. No one should have to go out in fear. Again, fear is a powerful motivator. No one should have to go out in fear of living in Kalamazoo or walking in our streets. Thank you.
Jacob Andrews, how would you address pedestrian safety?
A few ways. I think first, with the city purchasing a lot of that MDOT land, getting those one-way streets, we need to begin transitioning those one-ways to two-ways to be a more pedestrian safe city, especially downtown in Michigan and Kalamazoo Avenue. Those are horrible to cross, and so changing those to two-ways is vitally important to making pedestrians feel more safe to walk. There's no doubt that being a more pedestrian-safe city needs to be a #1 priority for the city of Kalamazoo. One really good way to do that is to get so many of these cars off of our streets. The city of Kalamazoo needs to dedicate funding towards public transportation. I'm all about biking, I'm all about walking. That's not a realistic approach to where many people live and to where all of the jobs are. We need adequate public transit to get so many cars off of our streets so people can walk comfortably.
Keith Kushner, then question on improving pedestrian safety.
One of the basic platforms of my campaign is to have complete streets, is to improve our infrastructure as well as integrate the complete streets concept into all of our streets and roadways. Complete streets is basically making our infrastructure safer for all users, not just pedestrians, but for bicyclists, people that are handicapped, for people that just can't get around. As a neighborhood association president, we've worked on this issue for 9 years. We're finishing up our neighborhood plan right now. It's one of the 5 basic components of our neighborhood plan. How are we going to make our neighborhood safer? How are we going to be able to connect to our downtown and our other neighborhoods? This is something that I believe everybody should be able to do. I've been going on walking audits for the last month now through the Safe Street Design. It's amazing. It's amazing how many places in our city that we've got we're there for cars, we're there for some pedestrians, but for the rest of our community, we're just not there.
Thank you. Trees Griffith.
To lift up, and I do agree with a lot of what Jake has said here. As a commissioner, one of our most important roles is to be the connection between the people in this city and and the city staff. And so yes, there have been plans laid out, there are walkability tours, there are a lot of things done. But the best way to affect and ensure that there's change is to make sure that the folks who are actually impacted, those voices are lifted up in the room. Because if you have a bunch of people who don't necessarily walk, trying to create plans for people who do, that's where we have problems. So that's my job as a commissioner, and that's what I will continue to do if I'm elected to stay on, is to continue to lift the voices of the people so that all of these issues, pedestrian issues included, are addressed appropriately.
Emily Demarest, the issue of pedestrian safety in Kalamazoo.
I love this question. I'm kind of an infrastructure nerd, so this is very exciting for me. Yeah, in updating our infrastructure and making our city more walkable and bikeable, I take the bus, my husband rides his bike almost every single day, so these are the reasons that are really critical. Of course, just for basic safety, but also implementing those full street plans, making sure we're accommodating a wide variety of mobility needs is one of the #1 things we can do to reduce our carbon footprint. 30% of all the pollution, according to the EPA, that comes from emissions comes from our transportation. Outdated, our bus system is in bad need of some modernization. So I think all those things are important. And also, I think we need to hold drivers accountable for their bad behaviors. We all see it happening. The responsibility can't always be on the people outside of their cars. People who are driving also need to make sure they're following the rules.
Chris Craig.
It's tough to get this in a minute because this is such an exciting topic to talk about. And I really hope anybody who's out here, or you're Googling complete streets and look into that and look how to get involved. But the reality is if you look at the fatality rates of vehicular accidents, when somebody's driving at 25 miles per hour and hits someone on average, there's a 10% fatality rate. When it goes up to 40 miles per hour, it's as high as 80% of a fatality rate. Just that little increase in miles per hour. We look at the people who are disproportionately impacted by these fatalities are our low-income citizens who depend on different modes of transportation, including walking, people with disabilities, and it also includes people who use it for recreation, which is about creating a quality of life in Kalamazoo. We want to create a more equitable community, #1, right? We also want to make a high quality of life for people, so we're shooting ourselves in the foot by not thinking and becoming less of a motorist-centric community and more of a multi-transportation modes community. So we need to slow people down, we need to stop getting distracted drivers, get people off their phones, get people paying attention to driving again, and we need to think about different modes of transportation.